Welcome to Ultimate Sleep Doctor. Tonight, we turn our attention to the quiet wisdom of the natural world. Trees, these ancient, silent sentinels, hold a secret language, a communication we're only beginning to understand. Scientists are discovering that trees aren't simply absorbing sunlight. They're exchanging information through a complex network of fungal threads beneath the forest floor. It's a breathtaking glimpse into a world of interconnectedness, a subtle conversation spanning centuries. Perhaps this reminds us of the delicate balance within ourselves, the unseen threads that connect us to all living things. Let your thoughts drift, like leaves carried on a gentle breeze. If you find these explorations soothing, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Ultimate Sleep Doctor. Together, we can soothe more wandering minds, one peaceful night at a time. Just breathe, let your worries fade. Let's begin. Deep beneath the forest floor, a secret world hums with activity. A network far more complex and interconnected than any human-built system. This isn't a world of bustling insects or scurrying rodents, though many creatures do pass through its pathways. Instead, it's a web of fungal threads, a vast and subtle communication system built by and for the trees themselves. This intricate network is known as the mycorrhizal network, and it's one of the most astonishing discoveries in modern botany. The story begins with a humble fungus, often a member of the Escamicota phylum. Mushrooms are just the visible fruiting bodies of these organisms. These fungi, typically small and relatively unassuming, have a remarkable partnership with nearly every tree species. The roots of a tree, particularly in its early years, are remarkably limited in their ability to absorb water and nutrients from the soil. The soil itself is a challenging environment. Water is often held in tiny pockets, inaccessible to the tree's roots, and nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen are locked up in mineral forms that the roots simply can't break down. The fungus steps in, offering a solution. It sends out fine, thread-like hyphae. These are microscopic filaments, thinner than a human hair, extending outwards from the tree's roots into the surrounding soil. These hyphae grow and branch, creating a vast, branching network that can cover hundreds, even thousands of square meters. This network is the mycorrhizal network. The hyphae aren't simply wandering blindly, they're actively seeking out resources. They're incredibly adept at dissolving minerals from the soil and transporting them back to the tree. In exchange, the tree provides the fungus with sugars, carbohydrates produced through photosynthesis. The tree uses sunlight to create its own food, and it generously shares a portion of this energy-rich bounty with its fungal partner. It's a beautiful, reciprocal exchange. But the mycorrhizal network is much more than just a simple nutrient exchange. Scientists have discovered compelling evidence that trees use this network to communicate with each other, sharing information and warnings about threats. Imagine a forest teeming with trees, oaks, maples, pines, beeches, all connected by this subterranean web. If a tree is attacked by insects, it can release chemical signals into the soil. These signals, carried by the fungal hyphae, travel along the network to neighboring trees. The receiving trees then activate their own defense mechanisms, producing chemicals that deter the insects or strengthen their bark. It's like a silent alarm system, a forest-wide alert. The specific compounds involved in this communication are still being studied, but researchers have identified chemicals like jasminates and salicylic acid playing key roles. These compounds are known to be involved in plant defense responses, and their presence in the mycorrhizal network suggests that trees are consciously sending and receiving these signals. Recent research has even demonstrated that trees can learn from the experiences of other trees, essentially gaining knowledge through this network. If one tree has been repeatedly attacked by a particular pest, its signals will be amplified in the network, alerting other trees to the danger, even if those trees have never encountered the pest themselves. The efficiency of this communication isn't simply due to the physical connection. It's also influenced by the types of mycorrhizal associations present. There are several different types of mycorrhizal relationships, categorized primarily by the way the fungi interact with the roots. Ectomycorrhizae, for instance, form a dense sheath around the root tips, while arbuscular mycorrhizae penetrate the root cells themselves. Each type of association can influence the speed and complexity of communication. Ectomycorrhizal networks, in particular, have been shown to be particularly adept at transmitting complex information. Furthermore, the network isn't static. It's a dynamic, constantly evolving structure, influenced by factors like tree age, species, and environmental conditions. Young trees rely heavily on the network to establish themselves, receiving crucial nutrients and protection. As trees mature, their own root systems expand, and they become less dependent on the fungal network, though they continue to benefit from the ongoing exchange. Older, established trees, particularly those with extensive mycorrhizal connections, can act as hubs in the network, channeling information and resources throughout the forest. The implications of this research are profound. It challenges our traditional view of forests as collections of independent organisms and reveals a level of interconnectedness that mirrors, in some ways, the complexity of the human nervous system. The mycorrhizal network isn't just a passive conduit for nutrients. It's an active participant in the forest's ecology, a sophisticated information highway that shapes the way trees interact with their environment and with each other. It highlights the importance of fungal communities, often overlooked, in maintaining the health and resilience of our forests. The future of forest conservation may very well hinge on understanding and protecting these hidden networks, recognizing that the health of one tree can, in fact, affect the entire forest. Beneath the visible expanse of a tree's trunk and branches lies an equally remarkable, and often far more intricate, world, the architecture of its roots. It's not simply a tangled mass grasping at the earth. Instead, it's a precisely engineered system designed for incredibly efficient uptake of water and nutrients, and the transport of these vital substances throughout the entire tree. The root system is a masterpiece of natural geometry, a testament to billions of years of evolution. The primary roots, the ones anchoring the tree firmly into the soil, are often massive, thick structures. These aren't just for stability, though. They're also the main conduits for water and minerals. But the real wonder begins with the lateral roots, the branching extensions that spread outwards in a complex web. These roots aren't uniformly distributed. Their density and orientation vary dramatically depending on the tree species, the soil type, and even the age of the tree. A young sapling, for instance, will have a more concentrated root system close to the surface, where water is most readily available. As the tree matures, its roots delve deeper, seeking out areas with richer mineral deposits. The geometry of these lateral roots is far from random. Researchers have discovered that root growth is often guided by subtle gradients in the soil. If a slightly higher concentration of phosphorus is present in one area, the roots will actively grow towards it, following the concentration gradient. This directed growth creates intricate patterns, sometimes spiral, sometimes branching in complex fractal shapes that maximize access to nutrients. These patterns aren't just aesthetically interesting. They represent a deeply optimized strategy for resource acquisition. Consider the distribution of root hairs. These incredibly fine, hair-like extensions are the workhorses of nutrient uptake. They're found on the outermost layers of the lateral roots, dramatically increasing the surface area available for contact with the soil. A single tree root can have a surface area equivalent to several hundred square meters. That's larger than some houses. This immense surface area allows for a truly astonishing exchange with the soil. The roots aren't just passively absorbing. They're actively creating pathways for water and dissolved minerals to flow into the tree. The transport system within the root itself is equally fascinating. Once water and nutrients are absorbed, they need to be moved upwards against the force of gravity to the rest of the tree. This is accomplished through a combination of physical pressure and specialized cells. The root's core contains a central cylinder of specialized cells called the stele. Within the stele runs the xylem, a tissue responsible for transporting water upwards. The xylem's walls are incredibly strong and reinforced with lignin, a complex polymer that provides rigidity. As water moves through the xylem, it's subjected to a negative pressure, or tension, which essentially pulls the water upwards. However, the xylem isn't a simple pipe. It's punctuated by pits, tiny, porous spaces between the cells that allow water to flow from one cell to the next. This interconnected network allows for efficient water transport while minimizing water loss. Around the xylem runs the phloem, responsible for transporting sugars and other organic compounds produced during photosynthesis. The phloem cells are connected to the xylem through specialized structures called transfusion tissue, facilitating the movement of nutrients between the roots and the rest of the tree. The architecture of root systems isn't static. It's constantly adapting and changing in response to environmental conditions. During periods of drought, for example, the tree will often reduce the size of its root system, concentrating its efforts on the remaining roots. Conversely, when water is plentiful, the root system can expand dramatically, exploring new areas in search of nutrients. The roots also respond to soil compaction. In dense, compacted soils, roots will grow around obstacles, rocks, roots of other plants, creating winding, convoluted pathways to reach the water and nutrients trapped within the soil. Furthermore, different tree species exhibit remarkably diverse root architectures. Some trees, like willows, have extensive, widely spreading root systems designed to quickly absorb water from large areas. Others, like pines, have deep taproots that reach down to access groundwater. The root architecture is intricately linked to the tree's overall strategy for survival and growth. Researchers are utilizing advanced technologies, such as ground-penetrating radar and isotopic tracers, to map and understand the intricate pathways within root systems, revealing a level of complexity that continues to surprise and inspire scientists. The study of root architecture is not just about understanding how trees function. It's a window into the remarkable adaptations that have allowed life to flourish on our planet for millennia. It's a story written in the soil, a silent testament to the ingenuity of nature. The forest floor, already a world of damp earth and decaying leaves, holds a secret far more intricate than the interconnected roots and fungal pathways we've begun to uncover. Trees, those silent giants, aren't merely standing still, absorbing sunlight and water. They're constantly engaged in a complex conversation, a rapid exchange of information that happens not through physical contact, but through the air itself. This conversation is built on a fascinating system of chemical signaling, utilizing volatile organic compounds, VOCs, as its primary language. These VOCs are essentially tiny airborne molecules produced by trees in response to various stresses. They're not like the perfume of a flower, intended to attract a pollinator. Instead, they act as urgent warnings dispatched to neighboring trees, alerting them to danger. Think of it as a forest-wide alarm system, orchestrated without a single shout or signal fire. The nature of these warnings is incredibly diverse, reflecting the nature of the threat. One of the most well-studied examples involves herbivorous insects. When a tree, like a pine or a willow, is attacked by caterpillars or beetles, it initiates a defense response. As part of this response, it begins to produce VOCs, specifically compounds like pinene and methyl salicylate. These aren't passive responses. The tree actively generates these chemicals. The production ramps up dramatically in the immediate vicinity of the attack. The specific blend of VOCs released can even vary depending on the type of insect attacking, allowing for a degree of targeted communication. These airborne signals travel through the air, carried by wind currents, until they reach the leaves of neighboring trees. Upon detection of these VOCs, the receiving trees also kickstart their own defense mechanisms. They might begin producing defensive chemicals of their own, creating a more potent deterrent for the insect. For instance, a receiving tree might synthesize tannin compounds, making its leaves less palatable to the insect. Or it could trigger the production of jasmonic acid, a hormone involved in many plant defense pathways. This creates a feedback loop, a chemical arms race, where both the attacker and the defender are constantly adapting and responding. But the warnings issued by trees extend far beyond insect attacks. Drought, for example, is a significant stressor for many plant species. When a tree experiences water scarcity, it releases VOCs like limonene and beta-pinene. These compounds aren't just signs of distress. They actively trigger defenses against water loss. The receiving trees respond by strengthening their cuticles, the waxy outer layer of their leaves, reducing water evaporation. They might also alter their stomatal opening, which controls gas exchange, to minimize water loss. This ability to detect and respond to drought conditions through VOC signaling is crucial for survival in increasingly arid environments. Furthermore, trees utilize VOCs to communicate about pathogens, fungi, and bacteria that can cause disease. When a tree is infected, it releases VOCs, such as methyl jasmonate, which triggers systemic acquired resistance, SAR. SAR is a plant-wide defense mechanism that prepares the entire tree to fight off infection. Neighboring trees, upon detecting these VOCs, activate their own immune responses, bolstering their defenses against potential pathogens. The precise mix of VOCs again dictates the nature of the warning, allowing for nuanced responses to different types of threats. It's not simply danger, but specific fungal pathogen, type X. The remarkable aspect of this system is the speed and efficiency with which it operates. VOCs are incredibly volatile, meaning they evaporate quickly. However, trees have evolved clever strategies to maximize their communication range. They often release VOCs in pulses, creating a burst of information that travels further than a continuous, low-level emission. They also strategically position themselves in the forest, allowing for optimal wind currents to carry their messages. Researchers are now beginning to understand the intricate chemical codes embedded within these VOC blends. They're using sophisticated analytical techniques, like gas chromatography mass spectrometry, to identify and quantify the various compounds being released. This is allowing scientists to decipher the vocabulary of the forest, uncovering the precise messages trees are sending to one another. It's a profoundly complex system, relying on incredibly subtle chemical signals, constantly shifting and evolving in response to the ever-changing conditions of the forest environment. The more we learn, the more we appreciate the astonishing intelligence and interconnectedness of this hidden world beneath our feet. It's a reminder that even the quietest of landscapes holds a vibrant and dynamic conversation, carried on the very air we breathe. The ancient forest held its breath, not in fear, but in meticulous recording. It wasn't a sound nor a scent that carried its story. It was etched within its very being, a silent testament to countless seasons. Scientists, working with a remarkable technique called dendrochronology, had discovered how to unlock this hidden history, deciphering the secrets held within the growth rings of trees. These rings, visible as concentric circles beneath the bark, are far more than just indications of a tree's age. Each ring represents a year, a precise, quantifiable marker of the environmental conditions that shape the tree's growth. The formation of a ring is a delicate dance between the tree and its surroundings. During periods of plentiful rainfall and warm temperatures, the tree would rapidly absorb water and nutrients, fueling vigorous growth. This resulted in a wider, lighter-colored ring, a period of abundance. Conversely, when conditions were drier or cooler, growth slowed considerably, leading to a narrower, darker-colored ring. These contrasting patterns of wide and narrow rings create a unique fingerprint for each year, a distinct signature visible on a tree's trunk. The beauty of dendrochronology lies in its extraordinary precision. Unlike relying on estimated dates based on historical records or archaeological evidence, tree rings provide an objective, verifiable timeline. Scientists don't just count rings, they meticulously measure their width, creating a chronological sequence extending back thousands of years. This method isn't just about aging trees. It's about reconstructing past climates, tracking events like volcanic eruptions, and even understanding the impact of human activities. The technique is particularly powerful when used in conjunction with trees that live for extraordinarily long periods. Bristlecone pines, for example, found in the high altitudes of the White Mountains in California, are among the oldest living organisms on Earth. Their exceptionally slow growth rates mean that their rings preserve a remarkable record of climate variability spanning over 5,000 years. By overlapping the chronologies of different bristlecone pines, scientists have built extraordinarily detailed climate records, providing a window into past atmospheric conditions with an accuracy that is unparalleled. Beyond bristlecone pines, many other tree species, oaks, beeches, spruces, possess the capacity to form long, continuous chronologies. The key is their longevity and the consistent, annual deposition of new wood. When two tree ring sequences from different locations, representing different species, align perfectly in terms of their ring patterns, it signifies a shared climatic history. This synchronization allows scientists to cross-validate data and build regional and even global climate records. The study of tree rings has revealed astonishing insights. For instance, the widespread occurrence of narrow rings during the medieval warm period, roughly 950 to 1250 AD, has been confirmed through tree ring data, providing strong evidence for a warmer climate during that time. Similarly, the abrupt and dramatic narrowing of tree rings in the early 13th century corresponds with the timing of the major volcanic eruption of Mount Hekla in Iceland, a devastating event that deposited ash across vast areas of Europe, significantly impacting climate. The patterns of rings also show connections to periods of drought, flooding, and even forest fires, events that shape the landscapes we see today. Furthermore, dendrochronology has been used to investigate human impacts on the environment. The shortening of tree ring sequences in regions affected by deforestation or overgrazing provides a tangible record of ecological degradation. Scientists can track the recovery of forests following periods of human disturbance, offering valuable information for conservation efforts. The study of tree rings around settlements has even allowed researchers to estimate the timing of agricultural activities, providing a glimpse into the lives of past communities. The science isn't without its challenges. Tree ring records are only as reliable as the trees themselves, and factors like insect infestations, disease, and physical damage can disrupt the formation of rings, leading to gaps or irregularities in the record. Careful analysis and cross-validation are essential to minimize these uncertainties. Nevertheless, the precision and power of dendrochronology continue to grow as scientists develop increasingly sophisticated techniques, including computer modeling and isotopic analysis, to interpret the complex patterns within tree rings. The silent story of the trees, once a closely guarded secret, is now being unveiled, offering a profound understanding of our planet's past and a crucial tool for navigating its future. It's a reminder that even the smallest, most seemingly unremarkable organisms can hold the key to understanding the grand sweep of time. The forest floor, dappled with the last rays of the setting sun, hummed with a silent industry. Trees, seemingly still and rooted, were engaged in a constant, intricate battle, not against each other, but against a relentless barrage of attackers: insects, slugs, and the microscopic world of fungi and bacteria. This wasn't a violent, slashing fight, but a sophisticated system of defense, employing a remarkable array of strategies, both obvious and incredibly subtle. Many of the earliest defenses are passive, offering a first line of protection simply by being a tree. The thick bark of an oak, for example, isn't just a covering, it's a physical barrier, a substantial impediment to many herbivores attempting to chew their way through. Younger trees, lacking a fully developed bark, are particularly vulnerable, demonstrating a critical need for the protective layer to build up over time. Similarly, the waxy cuticle on a pine needle, that iridescent shield, dramatically reduces the surface area available for attack, making it difficult for fungal spores or insect larvae to establish a foothold. The structure of the leaf itself plays a significant role. Needle-like leaves, as seen in conifers, offer a greater surface area for water collection, but also minimize the space available for insects to burrow. Beyond the physical barriers, trees employ chemical defenses. They produce a bewildering collection of compounds, tannins, terpenes, alkaloids, and more that aren't necessarily beneficial to the tree itself, but profoundly distasteful or toxic to potential invaders. These chemicals are often concentrated in specific parts of the tree, like the leaves, stems, and roots, creating zones of deterrence. Some compounds, like tannins, bind to proteins, essentially starving insects by preventing them from digesting their food. Others, such as terpenes found in citrus trees, are volatile, released into the air, acting as signals, but also as direct repellents. The potency of these compounds can vary depending on the tree species and the specific threat it faces. For instance, a birch tree under attack by aphids will dramatically increase its production of quinates, powerfully irritating chemicals that cause the insects to abandon the plant. But the defense doesn't stop at simple deterrence. Trees have evolved active strategies, responses triggered by direct attack or perceived danger. One fascinating area of research focuses on the induced resistance phenomenon. When a tree is successfully attacked by a specific insect, it doesn't just endure the damage, it primes its defenses for future assaults. This is achieved through a complex exchange of chemical signals. When an insect feeds on a tree, the tree releases specific volatile compounds, known as elicitors, into the air. These elicitors travel to other parts of the tree, triggering the production of defensive compounds. It's like sending out an alarm call, alerting the entire tree to prepare for an incoming attack. This induced resistance can last for days or even weeks, significantly increasing the tree's ability to withstand subsequent assaults. Furthermore, trees can manipulate their root systems as part of their defense. Some trees, particularly those in nutrient-poor environments, actively suppress the growth of competing fungi and bacteria around their roots. This is achieved through the production of compounds that inhibit fungal hyphae, the thread-like structures that make up fungal networks. This root exclusion not only reduces competition for nutrients, but also prevents pathogens from gaining access to the tree's vascular system. In some cases, trees even actively recruit beneficial microbes to their roots, creating a symbiotic relationship where the microbes protect the tree from pathogens in exchange for a steady supply of sugars. The response to pathogens, particularly fungal infections, is equally intricate. Trees have evolved mechanisms to recognize fungal DNA, differentiating it from their own. When this distinction is made, the tree activates a cascade of defense responses, including the production of antifungal compounds and the strengthening of cell walls. Some trees even form physical barriers around infected areas, effectively isolating the infection and preventing its spread. Research has revealed that trees can actively recruit specialized cells, often called hypersensitive cells, to the site of infection. These cells quickly initiate a programmed cell death, a controlled demolition, to limit the pathogen's access to vital tissues. It's important to note that the effectiveness of these defenses isn't always a simple on or off switch. Trees often engage in a delicate balancing act, prioritizing defense while still maintaining their growth and overall health. A tree overwhelmed by constant attacks may expend too much energy on defense, compromising its ability to thrive. The success of a particular defense strategy depends on a complex interplay of factors, including the type of attacker, the age and health of the tree, and the surrounding environment. Ultimately, the defense mechanisms of trees represent a stunning example of evolutionary adaptation. It's a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of life in the natural world, a silent, ongoing battle fought with remarkable subtlety and sophistication, shaping the very structure and character of our forests. The next time you stand beneath the canopy, remember the hidden language of trees, a language of chemicals, structures, and carefully orchestrated responses, protecting these ancient giants from a relentless and diverse array of threats. The forest floor, damp with the recent rain, held a quiet hum, a vibration just beneath the rustle of leaves. This wasn't just the wind. It was something far more intricate, a subtle dance happening within the trees themselves. We've learned that trees communicate through sense, through the records held in their rings, and through strategies to protect themselves. But there's another, profoundly important language, one that relies on the very lifeblood flowing through their branches, sap. The movement of sap, the continuous upward journey from roots to leaves, isn't simply about transporting nutrients and sugars. It's becoming increasingly clear that this flow carries vital information, acting as a complex, dynamic signaling network across the forest. The mechanism is fascinating. Trees possess a remarkable plumbing system, a network of vessels, the xylem, designed for incredibly efficient water transport. These vessels aren't static tubes, they pulse with sap under the influence of pressure. This pressure, known as cavitation, is created by the uptake of water from the soil, a process called transpiration. As water evaporates from the leaves, it pulls water upwards through the xylem. This creates a tension, a negative pressure, driving the flow. Now, scientists are discovering that this same pressure, this rhythmic pulse, can be harnessed as a communication signal. The key lies in the variations within the sap flow itself. It's not a uniform stream. The rate and volume of sap moving through the xylem fluctuate in response to a tree's internal and external conditions. A sudden increase in sap flow, for instance, might occur when a tree senses a threat, like an insect attack. It's hypothesized that this surge could transmit a warning signal to neighboring trees. Think of it like a subtle ripple spreading through a pond. The disturbance in this case, the rapid sap movement, travels outwards. Experiments have provided strong evidence of this. Researchers have demonstrated that when one tree is subjected to herbivore attack, neighboring trees, even those seemingly far away, exhibit physiological changes. These changes include increased production of defensive chemicals, bolstering their own defenses. The mechanism of this remote signaling is still being investigated, but the prevailing theory points towards sap flux as the primary carrier. The pulse of sap, carrying a biochemical message, triggers a cascade of responses in the receiving trees. It's not just about defense. Sap flux also appears to be involved in resource allocation. During periods of drought, trees can regulate sap flow to conserve water. However, this regulation isn't simply a passive response. It's a coordinated effort to signal to other trees about water availability. A tree with ample water might increase sap flow, effectively broadcasting its surplus to trees facing scarcity. Conversely, a tree experiencing water stress might reduce sap flow, signaling a need for assistance. This creates a network of mutual support, a surprisingly cooperative system within the forest. The study of cavitation is central to understanding this communication. Scientists are using sophisticated sensors to monitor sap flow rates and pressures in trees. These devices, sometimes referred to as sap flux meters, provide a continuous stream of data, revealing the intricate patterns of flow within the forest. Through analyzing this data, researchers are identifying specific triggers for sap flux changes and correlating them with observed responses in neighboring trees. It's like listening to the forest's heartbeat, deciphering the rhythm of its communication. Furthermore, the chemical composition of the sap itself appears to play a role. While volatile organic compounds, as discussed in previous parts, contribute to localized signaling, sap flow allows for the transport of a wider range of chemicals across greater distances. Changes in sugar concentration within the sap could also carry information about photosynthetic activity or the overall health of the tree. The sap isn't just a transporter of water. It's a complex biochemical messenger, constantly adapting to the tree's needs and the demands of its environment. The science surrounding sap flux communication is still relatively young, but the evidence is mounting. It challenges our traditional view of trees as solitary organisms and paints a picture of a complex, interconnected community, sharing information and resources in ways we are only beginning to understand. Imagine the sheer scale of this network, countless trees, all connected through the flow of sap, constantly exchanging signals. It's a testament to the ingenuity of nature, a silent, pulsing conversation occurring beneath our feet. Researchers are now exploring the possibility of tree telephones, devices that could directly tap into this sap-based communication network. While the technology is still in its early stages, the potential implications are enormous, offering new ways to monitor forest health, predict and mitigate the impacts of climate change, and even understand the long-lost wisdom of the trees themselves. The rhythmic pulse of sap isn't just a biological process, it's a language waiting to be fully translated. The intricate dance of sap, a continuous flow of life, represents a hidden layer of intelligence within the forest. It's a reminder that the natural world is full of surprises, and that even the most seemingly simple processes can hold profound secrets. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of sap flux communication, we gain a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of life and the remarkable capabilities of the plant kingdom. The next time you walk through a forest, remember the silent conversation happening beneath your feet, the rhythmic pulse of sap, carrying a message of resilience, cooperation, and the enduring wisdom of the trees. The forest floor, dappled with sunlight, wasn't just a collection of fallen leaves and decaying wood. It was a crucial participant in a global dance, a slow, deliberate exchange occurring through the very existence of trees. The story of our planet's atmosphere isn't simply one of carbon release, but one interwoven with the extraordinary capacity of trees to actively draw carbon dioxide from the air. This isn't a passive absorption. It's an incredibly efficient, ongoing process built into the very architecture of the tree itself. Trees, you see, are master chemists. Their leaves, those vibrant green platforms, are where the magic truly happens. They're equipped with tiny pores called stomata that open and close like miniature mouths, breathing in carbon dioxide from the surrounding air. This isn't a conscious action, of course, but a fundamental necessity for life. The carbon dioxide enters the leaf, and with the help of sunlight, captured by a green pigment called chlorophyll, begins its journey. Chlorophyll is what gives leaves their color and is absolutely vital to the process, much like a tiny solar panel. This sunlight-driven process, known as photosynthesis, is the cornerstone of this remarkable exchange. Carbon dioxide is combined with water drawn up from the roots to create sugars, specifically glucose, which fuel the tree's growth, its development of branches, roots, and ultimately its entire structure. As a byproduct of this transformation, oxygen is released back into the atmosphere. It's a beautiful, reciprocal relationship. The tree gains the building blocks of its life, and we and countless other organisms benefit from the oxygen it provides. But the story doesn't end with the leaf. The sugars produced in the leaves aren't simply used immediately. Instead, they travel throughout the tree, eventually being stored in its wood. This is where the truly significant carbon sequestration begins. Wood, you see, is remarkably dense in carbon. The carbon that was once floating freely in the atmosphere is now locked within the complex cellular structure of the tree's trunk, branches, and roots. The rate at which a tree absorbs carbon dioxide varies greatly, depending on several factors. Younger trees, with their rapidly expanding growth, generally absorb more carbon than older, more established trees. The species of tree also plays a role. Some species, like certain pines and redwoods, are particularly efficient at carbon storage. Furthermore, a tree's health and access to sunlight significantly impact its ability to photosynthesize and therefore its carbon uptake. A stressed or shaded tree will naturally absorb less carbon dioxide than one thriving in optimal conditions. Now, let's consider the scale of this process. Forests are not just collections of individual trees. They represent vast, interconnected ecosystems. Globally, forests absorb an estimated 1/3 of all the carbon dioxide released by human activities, primarily from burning fossil fuels. This isn't a perfect solution, of course. The carbon stored in trees isn't permanently locked away forever. Over centuries and millennia, as trees die and decompose, some of this carbon is released back into the atmosphere. However, when forests are managed sustainably, meaning allowed to grow and regenerate naturally, the rate of carbon absorption can exceed the rate of release, creating a natural carbon sink. The impact of this biogenic carbon dioxide removal extends far beyond simply balancing our emissions. Changes in atmospheric composition, even subtle shifts, can have profound consequences for our planet's climate. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, meaning it traps heat in the Earth's atmosphere. Increased concentrations of carbon dioxide contribute to a warming planet, a phenomenon we call climate change. By actively drawing down carbon dioxide, trees are helping to mitigate the effects of climate change, providing a vital counterbalance to human activity. Moreover, the carbon stored in trees provides a substantial resource. Wood is used for construction, fuel, and a myriad of other products. When wood is sustainably harvested and used, the carbon stored within it remains locked up, further reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. It's a cyclical process, a beautiful demonstration of how nature can provide solutions to human challenges. The health and preservation of our forests is therefore not simply an environmental concern. It's intrinsically linked to the stability of our atmosphere and the future of our planet. The slow, patient work of trees, converting sunlight and carbon dioxide into life, is a testament to the powerful, ongoing collaboration between the natural world and ourselves. It's a story of resilience, adaptation, and the quiet strength of nature, a story that continues to unfold, one leaf, one tree at a time. The forest floor, dappled with the last rays of the setting sun, felt cool beneath Alara's boots. She'd been tracking the intricate patterns of root systems for weeks, a journey leading her deeper into the mysteries of the ancient woodland. Today's focus was on understanding the remarkable stillness, the quiet dignity of the oldest trees. It wasn't simply that they were long-lived. It was the exquisitely orchestrated process of their decline, a kind of graceful surrender to time. The science of tree aging, or senescence, is far more complex than simply counting rings. It's a carefully regulated system, a slow, deliberate dismantling of the tree's tissues, driven by a delicate balance of growth and decay. At the core of this process is the phenomenon of programmed cell death. Just as your body carefully dismantles old cells during wound healing, shedding skin cells, for example, trees also possess the ability to selectively eliminate their own cells. This isn't a violent destruction. It's a controlled subtraction, driven by internal signals. Within the cambium, the layer of cells responsible for producing new wood and bark, there are cells destined for removal. These cells, often identified as senescent cells, don't actively fight against this fate. They accept it, contributing to the dismantling of the tree's structure. The rate at which this happens varies dramatically depending on the species, its environment, and even its individual history. A silver birch, for example, might undergo a more rapid and visible decline than a sturdy oak. The oak's longevity stems partly from its ability to maintain a robust cambium for a significantly longer period, effectively delaying the onset of widespread senescence. Within the wood itself, the cellular structure changes. The large, uniform cells of younger would begin to fragment, becoming smaller and more irregular. This transformation, known as wood deterioration, is accompanied by the accumulation of compounds like suberin, a waxy substance that strengthens the cell walls and protects against water loss, but ultimately contributes to the hardening of the wood. Another key aspect of tree senescence is the alteration of vascular tissue. The xylem, the tissue that transports water and nutrients, gradually loses its efficiency. The vessels, the hollow channels that carry water upwards, become narrower and less interconnected. This is not simply a matter of blockage. The cells themselves undergo changes in their ability to maintain the pressure needed for water transport. The phloem, the tissue responsible for transporting sugars, also experiences modifications, impacting the tree's ability to fuel its remaining metabolic processes. The accumulation of secondary metabolites, compounds like tannins, resins, and terpenes, plays a critical role. Initially, these compounds contribute to defense, deterring herbivores and pathogens. However, as the tree ages, their concentration increases, and they can contribute to the physical deterioration of tissues, reinforcing the hardening of the wood and impacting its flexibility. These compounds aren't necessarily harmful, but they represent a shift in the tree's priorities, a focus on stabilization and resilience rather than vigorous growth. Furthermore, the rate of respiration, the process by which trees consume energy, slows down significantly as they age. Younger trees are constantly building, actively synthesizing new tissues. Older trees, on the other hand, are largely focused on maintaining the integrity of what they already have. The reduction in photosynthetic activity, the process of converting sunlight into energy, contributes to a decline in the supply of sugars needed to fuel this maintenance. It's important to note that senescence isn't a uniformly negative process. The dismantling of tissues creates space for new growth, albeit at a reduced rate. The accumulation of compounds can actually provide protection against environmental stresses, like drought or cold. Moreover, the altered structure of the wood can provide habitat for a diverse range of organisms, fungi, insects, and even small animals, creating a complex and fascinating ecosystem within the heart of the tree. Scientists are increasingly utilizing techniques like isotopic tracing and advanced imaging to map the changes within tree tissues in unprecedented detail. They're discovering that the senescence process is far more dynamic and adaptable than previously imagined, influenced by factors like light exposure, nutrient availability, and even the presence of other trees. The study of tree senescence isn't simply about understanding the end of a tree's life. It's about gaining a deeper appreciation for the intricate and enduring wisdom contained within these silent, ancient guardians of the forest. It's a lesson in acceptance, resilience, and the profound beauty of a life measured not in years, but in the graceful unfolding of a carefully orchestrated decline. The forest floor, damp with the evening's dew, held a profound quiet. Above, the last sliver of sun dipped below the tallest pines, painting the sky in hues of amethyst and rose. But even as the light faded, the trees were far from still. They were orchestrating an incredible silent dance, a continuous response to the most fundamental force in their world: sunlight. This isn't just about leaves turning green. It's a delicate, exquisitely tuned series of physiological processes, a constant negotiation with the availability of photons. The way trees grow, branch, and even decide where to send their roots is inextricably linked to the amount of light they receive. At the heart of this interaction is a phenomenon known as phototropism. It's the tree's ability to bend and grow towards a light source. You've likely observed this yourself: a sunflower diligently tracking the sun across the sky. But the mechanisms at play within a tree are far more intricate. Specialized cells, called phototropins, reside within the stems and leaves. These aren't just simple light receptors, they're molecular switches triggered by blue light. When blue light strikes a phototropin, it initiates a cascade of chemical reactions that essentially reorient the cell's internal organization. This reorientation leads to a redistribution of growth hormones, primarily auxin, within the plant tissue. Auxin, a powerful chemical messenger, accumulates on the shaded side of the stem. This increased concentration acts like a gentle pull, urging cells on that side to elongate more rapidly than those on the illuminated side. The result is a gradual, beautiful curve, the stem bending towards the light. It's a remarkably precise mechanism, allowing the tree to maximize its exposure to the energy-rich photons. This isn't a sudden, jerky movement. It's a sustained process, taking place over hours, even days, as the tree subtly adjusts its growth pattern. Young seedlings, especially, rely heavily on phototropism, utilizing every available photon to fuel their initial growth. However, the story of sunlight's influence isn't solely about reaching towards light. Trees also exhibit a response known as shade avoidance. As a tree grows taller, it encounters increasing amounts of shade cast by surrounding individuals. This creates a stressful situation, a reduction in the light available for photosynthesis. To compensate, trees can trigger a shade avoidance strategy. This involves accelerating growth, particularly in the upper parts of the stem, to quickly outstrip the competition for light. This response isn't just about reaching for more light. It's fundamentally about preemptively securing the resources needed for survival. The increased auxin production, again, plays a crucial role, but the signal is different. It's driven by a perceived shortage of light, creating a heightened state of growth. This can lead to more rapid vertical growth, often resulting in a less tapered trunk and branches that grow more quickly outwards. The tree is essentially saying, "I need more light, and I need it now." Beyond phototropism and shade avoidance, sunlight profoundly influences a process called morphogenesis, the shaping of a tree's form. Morphogenesis isn't just about responding to external stimuli like light. It's the underlying process that governs how a plant develops its overall architecture. Light quality, specifically the ratio of red to far red light, is a key regulator of morphogenesis. Far red light, emitted by the sun and reflected from the ground, is detected by specialized photoreceptors in the leaves. When a tree is shaded, the ratio of far red to red light increases. This elevated far red signal communicates to the tree that it's experiencing a dark environment, even if it's technically receiving some light. This triggers a suite of developmental changes that affect branching patterns, bud formation, and overall stem shape. It's like a subtle instruction manual, directing the tree to prioritize vertical growth and create a more open, airy canopy, a strategy that maximizes light capture. The distribution of light also affects the size and shape of the leaves themselves. Leaves exposed to more sunlight tend to be larger and thicker, equipped with a higher concentration of chlorophyll to efficiently capture the abundant energy. Leaves in the shade, conversely, are often smaller and thinner, with a reduced chlorophyll content, reflecting the diminished energy availability. This isn't simply an adaptation for light capture. It's a sophisticated integration of hormonal signals and developmental pathways, constantly adjusting the tree's physiology in response to its environment. The intricate dance between sunlight and a tree's physiology continues throughout its entire life. From the delicate curvature of a young seedling reaching for the sun to the complex branching patterns of an ancient giant, the influence of light is undeniable. It's a constant, silent conversation, a fundamental imperative that shapes not just the tree's growth, but its very existence. As the last vestiges of sunlight fade from the forest, the trees continue their quiet work, patiently awaiting the return of the light, ready to resume their breathtaking, light-driven symphony. The forest floor isn't just a bed of fallen leaves. It's a complex network of communication, a silent conversation happening beneath our feet and within the very structure of the trees themselves. We've already explored how trees breathe, how they age, and how they chase the sunlight. But what happens when the forest faces a strong challenge? When a storm rages, when a heavy snowfall presses down, or when a neighbor aggressively pushes its branches into the space of another? trees don't simply stand still. They respond powerfully and intelligently, using techniques remarkably similar to how our own bodies react to injury. A key element in this response is the ability to fuse their roots together, a process known as root grafting, and an equally impressive method of bolstering their branches. Root grafting isn't a random occurrence. It's a highly sophisticated strategy developed over millennia. The primary driver of this connection is mechanical stress. When a tree experiences a force, perhaps the roots are constricted by a boulder or the ground shifts, causing roots to rub against each other, a chemical signal is released. This signal, primarily composed of compounds like salicylic acid and jasmonic acid, acts like an urgent call for help. It's a broadcast saying, "I need support, I'm under pressure." Remarkably, this signal isn't just received by neighboring trees. It actively seeks out compatible partners. The species involved in root grafting vary considerably. Some species, like willows and poplars, are exceptionally prone to it, frequently connecting with multiple trees. This isn't always a deliberate act, though. Sometimes, a single root will simply brush against another, triggering the response. However, in many cases, the root grafting is carefully controlled. The trees are capable of assessing the health and vigor of a potential partner before committing to the connection. They examine the chemical signals being sent and the overall strength of the neighboring tree. A healthy, strong tree is far more likely to be accepted. The resulting connections aren't just simple joins. They form intricate networks. The grafted roots intertwine, exchanging water, nutrients, and, critically, carbohydrates. Imagine a vast, subterranean plumbing system, sharing resources across a community of trees. During periods of drought, for example, a tree with a well-established root graft network can draw upon the reserves of its partners, providing a lifeline when access to surface water is limited. Conversely, a tree experiencing a period of rapid growth can share its surplus carbohydrates with its partners, bolstering their own development. This sharing isn't altruistic in the human sense. It's a fundamentally strategic adaptation, driven by the need for survival and propagation. But root grafting is only one part of the tree's response to mechanical stress. Trees also possess remarkable abilities to strengthen their branches, again responding directly to external forces. When a branch is subjected to bending or twisting, the tree initiates a process called wood strengthening. This isn't simply about thickening the wood. It's a significant restructuring at the cellular level. The cells within the branch begin to align themselves more closely along the direction of the stress, creating a more rigid and resilient structure. This process relies heavily on the formation of lignified cells, cells containing lignin, a complex polymer that provides incredible strength and rigidity. Lignification is a particularly active process under stress, and the trees essentially reinforce the branch's architecture, like building a stronger frame within a building. The cells closest to the point of stress undergo the most intense modification, creating a zone of concentrated strength. This strengthening is facilitated by specialized cells called sclerenchyma cells, which are already inherently strong and contribute significantly to wood rigidity. Interestingly, the extent of wood strengthening can be influenced by the tree's age and experience. Older trees, having weathered numerous storms and environmental challenges, tend to have significantly stronger wood than younger trees. This suggests that the process of wood strengthening isn't just a reaction to immediate stress. It's also a form of learned resilience, a gradual accumulation of structural improvements over time. Furthermore, trees aren't passive recipients of these strengthening mechanisms. They actively monitor their environment and adjust their response accordingly. During periods of low stress, the rate of wood strengthening slows down. But when a significant force is detected, the process accelerates dramatically, demonstrating the tree's ability to quickly mobilize its resources and prioritize structural integrity. The combination of root grafting and branch strengthening represents a truly astonishing level of adaptability. It's a silent testament to the intricate interconnectedness of the forest ecosystem and the profound intelligence woven into the very fabric of these ancient, enduring organisms. It's a constant conversation, a carefully orchestrated exchange of support and resilience, ensuring the survival and flourishing of the trees, and ultimately, the entire forest. The forest floor, a soft carpet of decaying leaves and moss, isn't just a resting place for insects and fungi. It's a battlefield, a silent, complex arena where trees engage in a remarkable form of communication and defense, allelopathy. This isn't about a friendly exchange of nutrients or even a simple warning signal. It's a sophisticated chemical warfare strategy, a way for trees to actively inhibit the growth of their neighbors, and crucially, to ensure their own success. The core of allelopathy lies in the production and release of chemicals, primarily from the roots, but also sometimes from leaves and stems. These aren't just accidental byproducts of metabolism. They are deliberately synthesized compounds, carefully crafted to disrupt the physiology of other plants. Many of these chemicals, like strigolactones, were initially discovered as signals guiding root growth, directing seedlings to find water and nutrients. However, we've now realized that this same signaling system has a much darker, more competitive purpose. These strigolactones, for example, aren't just about telling a young sapling where to grow. At higher concentrations, they powerfully inhibit the germination and early development of other plant species. They can dramatically slow down the formation of roots in competing seedlings and even prevent them from establishing themselves at all. Think of it like a carefully placed barrier, a chemical wall designed to keep intruders out. The beauty of this system is that it doesn't require direct physical contact. The chemical signal travels through the soil, reaching far beyond the immediate vicinity of the producing tree. But strigolactones aren't the only players in this chemical drama. Many trees also produce quinones, compounds derived from anthocyanins, the pigments responsible for red and purple hues in fruits and flowers. These quinones, particularly betulin and betulinic acid, are potent inhibitors of cell division. They're incredibly effective at stopping the growth of other plants, essentially creating localized zones of arrested development. Different tree species employ a diverse arsenal of quinones, tailoring their chemical weaponry to the specific challenges they face. The effectiveness of allelopathy is profoundly influenced by the surrounding environment. Soil type plays a crucial role. Sandy soils tend to be more efficient at transporting these chemical signals, allowing them to travel farther and affect a wider range of plants. Clay soils, on the other hand, can bind the chemicals, reducing their dispersal and lessening their impact. Moisture levels are also critical. Adequate soil moisture allows the chemical compounds to move freely, while drought conditions can significantly decrease their effectiveness. It's not a simple case of one tree overpowering another. Allelopathy is often part of a complex, multi-layered interaction. A dominant tree might release chemicals to suppress competition, but a resilient weed could evolve adaptations to tolerate or even utilize these chemicals. Some species have developed mechanisms to detoxify the compounds, effectively neutralizing the threat. Furthermore, the allelochemical profile of a tree can change over time, influenced by factors like age, nutrient availability, and stress. The impact of allelopathy extends beyond individual seedlings. It can dramatically shape the structure of entire forest communities. Trees that produce high levels of allelochemicals tend to dominate areas with limited resources, creating chemical landscapes where their suppressive effects dictate the composition of the vegetation. Consider a stand of black walnut trees, notorious for their allelopathic influence. Their roots release a cocktail of chemicals that severely inhibit the growth of many other plant species, leading to a characteristic walnut barren effect, a landscape dominated almost entirely by black walnut. Interestingly, the long-term effects of allelopathy aren't always immediately apparent. While it's easy to observe the immediate suppression of seedling growth, the legacy of these chemical interactions can persist for decades, influencing the genetic makeup of plant populations. Studies have shown that allelochemicals can be incorporated into the seeds of tolerant plants, providing a form of inherited resistance. This creates a feedback loop, where the suppressive effects of one generation contribute to the survival of the next. The research into tree allelopathy is still ongoing, revealing ever more intricate details of this subterranean battle. Scientists are now exploring how different tree species coordinate their allelochemical defenses, and how these interactions contribute to the overall stability and resilience of forest ecosystems. It's a humbling reminder that the seemingly passive giants of the forest are, in reality, incredibly active participants in a constant, dynamic struggle for survival. A struggle waged not with branches and roots, but with the silent, potent language of chemicals. Understanding this hidden language can fundamentally change how we perceive the relationships within our forests, recognizing them as intricate systems of competition, defense, and ultimately, a remarkable demonstration of life's adaptive strategies. The forest floor, dappled with the late afternoon sun, held a quiet energy. It wasn't the frantic activity of a single tree striving for light, nor the silent, interwoven strength of root systems. Instead, it pulsed with a far more complex rhythm, a symphony orchestrated by the sheer variety of trees residing within the space. Scientists have discovered that the health and long-term stability of a forest, and by extension, the entire ecosystem it supports, are profoundly influenced by the degree of diversity found within it. It's a concept often referred to as biodiversity, and it's far more than just counting the number of different species. It's about the intricate web of relationships that are created when numerous tree types coexist. Consider the roots beneath the soil. A forest dominated by a single species, let's say a vast stand of Douglas fir, would develop a remarkably similar root system, mostly deep, fibrous roots seeking water and nutrients in a predictable way. This creates a uniform demand on the soil, potentially leading to depletion in certain areas and encouraging the growth of specific soil microbes. However, in a more diverse forest, you'll find a mosaic of root types, some shallow, spreading roots of maples seeking moisture near the surface, some deep taproots of oaks anchoring against strong winds, and others like willows with extensive absorbent systems. This variety creates a more balanced nutrient cycle, preventing localized depletion and fostering a richer, more complex microbial community. These microbes, in turn, play a crucial role in everything from nitrogen fixation to breaking down organic matter, essentially acting as tiny recycling factories. Furthermore, the differing growth habits of tree species contribute significantly to the overall structure of the forest. Some trees, like beeches, tend to grow tall and straight, while others, such as birches, have a more spreading, horizontal growth pattern. This creates a layered canopy, an understory of smaller trees and shrubs beneath the taller trees, a mid-story, and a towering overstory. Each layer provides a different habitat for animals, insects, and fungi, increasing the overall carrying capacity of the forest. A diverse canopy also offers greater protection from wind and rain, reducing erosion and stabilizing the soil. The impact extends beyond the immediate forest floor. The presence of multiple tree species alters the way the forest interacts with its surrounding environment. For instance, a forest with a mix of trees that attract different pollinators, oaks for bees, maples for butterflies, and cherries for hummingbirds, will have a far greater capacity to sustain a diverse insect population. These insects, in turn, support a wider range of birds and mammals. The complexity of this web of interactions creates a buffer against environmental shocks. If one species is negatively impacted by drought, for example, the diverse network of relationships will allow other species to compensate, maintaining the stability of the ecosystem. Scientists have observed this resilience in action during disturbances, such as wildfires or insect outbreaks. A forest dominated by a single, highly flammable tree species, like a vast pine plantation, is incredibly vulnerable to wildfires. The continuous dry needles create an enormous fuel load, and once a fire starts, it spreads rapidly, often leading to a catastrophic loss of biodiversity. However, a mixed-species forest, with a variety of trees that burn at different rates and have different fuel loads, is far more resistant. Some trees may burn quickly, consuming their own fuel and creating a fire break, while others will survive and regenerate, ensuring the long-term health of the forest. Similarly, when insect outbreaks, such as emerald ash borers, decimate a monoculture of ash trees, the diverse forest surrounding it provides a refuge for unaffected species. The loss of ash trees doesn't immediately translate into the collapse of the entire ecosystem. Instead, the remaining trees can adapt and thrive, and new species can move in to fill the vacant niches. This is a fundamental principle of ecological succession, the gradual process of change in an ecosystem over time. Research has shown a direct correlation between forest diversity and carbon sequestration. More diverse forests are generally better at absorbing and storing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, a critical function in mitigating climate change. This is partly due to the greater biomass, the total weight of living organic matter, found in diverse forests, but also because different tree species have different rates of photosynthesis and decomposition, influencing the overall carbon cycle. Furthermore, the complexity of a diverse forest generates a greater variety of habitats, creating opportunities for evolutionary adaptation. Species facing changing environmental conditions, such as rising temperatures or altered rainfall patterns, are more likely to find refuge and evolve within a diverse forest, enhancing its long-term resilience. The lessons learned from these intricate forest ecosystems are increasingly relevant to how we manage our own landscapes and respond to global challenges. It's becoming clear that prioritizing the preservation and restoration of forest diversity is not simply an act of environmental stewardship. It's a critical investment in the health and resilience of our planet. It's a reminder that the most enduring strength often lies not in uniformity, but in the beautiful, complex tapestry of interconnected life. The forest floor, a tapestry of decaying leaves and moss, isn't simply a quiet resting place. It's a constant chorus of subtle activity, a world of vibrations that the trees are exquisitely attuned to. For a long time, scientists underestimated this ability, focusing instead on the more obvious responses, the thickening of wood in reaction to wind, or the release of chemical signals. But recent research has unveiled a truly remarkable capability. Trees can sense and interpret vibrations, transforming them into information about their surroundings, often before any visible change occurs. This isn't just about detecting a falling branch. It's a complex, multi-layered system involving specialized cells and a network far more intricate than we previously believed. The key to this ability lies within the wood itself. Trees possess structures called xylem conduits, essentially tiny, microscopic channels running throughout their stems and roots. These conduits aren't just pathways for water and nutrients. They act as incredibly sensitive receivers. Within the walls of these conduits are cells containing a protein called channelrhodopsin. This protein, normally found in animal eyes, is remarkably sensitive to mechanical stimuli, specifically the subtle vibrations that travel through the wood. When a vibration caused by an insect crawling on a branch, the rumble of a distant truck, or even the shifting of soil passes through the wood, it stimulates the channelrhodopsin. This, in turn, triggers a cascade of electrical signals that travel rapidly through the xylem conduits, acting much like nerve impulses. The beauty of this system is that it's incredibly directional. The sensitivity of the xylem conduits allows the tree to pinpoint the source of the vibration with surprising accuracy. Imagine a woodpecker hammering on a trunk. The tree doesn't just feel the impact, it identifies the precise location of the drumming, allowing it to, for example, initiate a rapid thickening of the wood in that area to protect itself. This isn't a conscious decision. It's a purely reflexive response based on the information received through vibrational sensing. But the role of vibration sensing extends far beyond simple defense. Trees utilize this ability to interact with their environment in surprising ways. Studies have shown that seedlings can detect the approach of herbivores, caterpillars, beetles, even larger mammals, simply by sensing the vibrations of their movement through the undergrowth. This early warning system allows the seedling to quickly adjust its defenses, such as producing irritating compounds or strengthening its stem to deter the attacker. Furthermore, trees seem to use vibrational information to communicate with each other. While the precise mechanisms are still being investigated, there's growing evidence that trees can transmit warning signals through the soil via these same xylem conduits. For instance, if one tree is attacked by insects, it can send a vibrational signal to neighboring trees, prompting them to increase their resistance to attack. This is akin to a forest-wide alarm system, facilitated by the intricate network of roots and wood. The nature of these vibrational conversations is fascinating. Researchers have recorded vibrations from trees and discovered that they are not random. Certain patterns, frequencies, and amplitudes appear to carry specific information. It's not a language in the human sense, certainly, but a complex system of coded signals. The exact meaning of these signals is still a mystery, but scientists are beginning to unravel some of the patterns. It's speculated that different vibrational signatures might indicate different levels of threat, or potentially even relay information about nutrient availability, perhaps signaling the presence of water after a rainfall. The impact of human activity on this delicate vibrational communication network is a growing concern. The construction of roads, the use of heavy machinery, and even the simple act of walking through the forest generates vibrations that can disrupt the tree's ability to sense their environment. This disruption can weaken their defenses, make them more vulnerable to pests, and potentially interfere with their ability to communicate with each other. Research is underway to understand the long-term consequences of these disturbances and to develop strategies for minimizing their impact. Consider the case of the Douglas fir, a species known for its resilience. Scientists found that after a nearby logging operation created a continuous stream of vibrations, the trees responded by significantly increasing the density of their wood, a defensive adaptation triggered by this heightened sensory input. It was a direct, measurable reaction to the disturbance in their vibrational environment. Similarly, studies have demonstrated that trees in areas with high levels of human activity exhibit altered growth patterns and reduced resistance to disease, suggesting a fundamental shift in their response to their surroundings. The research surrounding tree vibration sensing is still in its early stages, and there's much more to learn. Future studies will undoubtedly reveal even more about the complexity and sophistication of this remarkable system. We are beginning to realize that trees are not just passive organisms, silently enduring their environment. They are active, intelligent participants in a vibrant, interconnected world, constantly listening and responding to the subtle vibrations that shape their lives. It's a humbling realization, one that reminds us of the profound interconnectedness of all living things. The forest floor, damp with the recent rain, held a quiet symphony of activity, though much of it was invisible to the casual observer. Beneath the moss and leaf litter, the real stories of the woods were being written not in scent or vibration, but in the very fabric of the trees themselves, in their genes. It's easy to think of adaptation as a reaction, a plant simply turning towards the sun or developing a thicker bark. But at its heart, adaptation is a remarkably intricate dance orchestrated by the information stored within a tree's DNA. Trees, you see, aren't simply passive recipients of environmental pressures. They are masters of genetic variation, constantly tinkering with their own blueprints to become better suited to their surroundings. This isn't a sudden, dramatic shift. It's a gradual accumulation of changes, small alterations in the sequences of AS, TS, CS, and GS, the building blocks of life that happen over generations. These changes or mutations aren't always harmful. Some are neutral, simply variations in the code, while others, just occasionally, provide a beneficial advantage. Consider a forest experiencing a prolonged drought. Trees facing this challenge wouldn't just develop deeper roots. They would be relying on genes that control the production of certain proteins. These proteins, in turn, could influence the efficiency with which the tree absorbs water from the soil, the ability to conserve water within its tissues, or even the structure of its leaves, perhaps shifting to a waxy coating to minimize water loss. The genes responsible for these responses have existed within the tree population, perhaps dormant for a long time, waiting for the right conditions to activate them. The mechanisms behind this activation are fascinating. One key player is epigenetics, a field of study that examines how environmental factors can influence gene expression without altering the underlying DNA sequence itself. Think of it like a dimmer switch controlling the brightness of a light bulb. The bulb's filament, the DNA, remains the same, but the intensity of the light, gene expression, can be adjusted based on the surrounding environment. Factors like temperature, light levels, and water availability can cause chemical modifications, called epigenetic marks, to attach to DNA, effectively telling the genes when to turn on or off. For instance, a tree exposed to increased sunlight might trigger epigenetic changes that enhance the expression of genes involved in producing pigments like anthocyanins, the compounds that give autumn leaves their vibrant reds and purples. Similarly, a tree facing increased salinity in its soil would activate genes linked to the production of proteins that help it tolerate the toxic effects of salt. These epigenetic changes are often, though not always, heritable, meaning they can be passed down to subsequent generations, allowing the tree population to adapt more quickly to changing conditions. The process isn't just about responding to large-scale environmental shifts. Trees also respond to smaller, more subtle changes. Researchers have discovered genes involved in sensing and reacting to fluctuating levels of carbon dioxide, a crucial adaptation in the face of a changing climate. They've identified genes controlling the speed at which a tree can photosynthesize, the efficiency with which it converts sunlight into energy, and even the ability to sequester carbon into its wood tissues. Furthermore, the genetic diversity within a tree population plays a vital role in its resilience. A population with a wide range of genetic variations is more likely to contain individuals with traits that are beneficial in a given environment. If a new disease emerges, for example, some trees might possess genes that confer resistance, allowing them to survive and reproduce, while others might succumb. This genetic redundancy creates a buffer against catastrophic losses. The study of tree genetics is a relatively young field, and we're only beginning to understand the full extent of this adaptive potential. Scientists are using advanced techniques like whole genome sequencing to identify the genes involved in various responses and to track how these genes are changing over time. They're also investigating how different tree species respond to stress, comparing their genetic makeup to understand why some are more vulnerable than others. It's important to note that the genetic basis of tree adaptation is intertwined with the tree's ability to learn and remember. Trees aren't simply reacting based on immediate conditions. They can retain information about past environmental events and use this information to guide their future responses. This memory is also encoded in their genes, influencing the expression of genes involved in stress responses and adaptation. Ultimately, the genetic story of a tree is a story of continuous evolution, a testament to the remarkable plasticity of life and the enduring power of adaptation. It's a story written not in words, but in the elegant code of its DNA, a code that shapes the very form and function of these ancient and wise beings. And as the forest continues to change, so too will the genetic narrative of the trees, ensuring their survival and continued role as guardians of the woodland. The forest hummed, a sound far subtler than the wind rustling leaves. It was a network of quiet adjustments, a constant, delicate conversation happening within the trees themselves, largely unnoticed by human ears. But recently, this conversation has become increasingly strained, a worried murmuring layered over the ancient rhythms of the woods. The arrival of humans and the ways they interact with the natural world have introduced stresses unlike anything the trees have ever experienced. These aren't the familiar challenges of drought or the slow, predictable shifts of seasons. This is a different kind of pressure, a relentless bombardment of signals, pollution, amplified noise, and the unnatural glow of artificial light. The first of these stressors is pollution. Trees, despite their remarkable resilience, are incredibly sensitive to chemical compounds. Airborne pollutants, released from factories, vehicles, and even agricultural practices, aren't just floating past them. They're being absorbed through the leaves, drawn up through the vascular system, and deposited in the roots. While a tree might temporarily tolerate a small amount of a particular contaminant, sustained exposure can disrupt vital processes. For example, heavy metals like lead and cadmium, common pollutants in urban areas, interfere with enzymatic reactions, the tiny chemical processes that drive photosynthesis, respiration, and nutrient uptake. This disruption can stunt growth, weaken defenses against disease, and ultimately reduce the tree's ability to thrive. Some tree species, particularly conifers like pines and firs, are particularly vulnerable, showing a marked decline in health in areas with high concentrations of air pollution. Scientists are currently investigating how specific trees, like the American beech, utilize specialized compounds within their tissues to sequester and detoxify these pollutants, a fascinating example of evolutionary adaptation. Beyond direct chemical absorption, pollution also impacts the tree's ability to interact with its surrounding environment. The air itself becomes less hospitable, reducing the efficiency of gas exchange, the intake of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, and the release of oxygen. Furthermore, pollutants can alter the soil chemistry, affecting the availability of essential nutrients and creating an environment that favors harmful microbes. The effect isn't isolated. It impacts the entire forest ecosystem, altering the delicate balance of species interactions. Then there's the issue of noise. Trees, as we've learned, are exquisitely sensitive to vibrations. They sense subtle movements in the ground, the rustling of leaves, and the flow of water. But the soundscape of a modern city, dominated by roaring engines, blaring horns, and constant construction, represents a wholly new level of disturbance. These sounds aren't just background noise. They're interpreted as threats. The precise mechanism isn't fully understood, but research suggests that the vibrations travel through the root system, stimulating the production of defensive compounds, chemicals that deter insects, pathogens, and even slow the growth of competitors. However, constant, intense noise overwhelms this system. Trees exposed to prolonged, high-level sound pollution experience a reduction in these defensive compounds, making them more vulnerable to attack. Some species, notably mature oaks, exhibit a diminished ability to respond to the drumming of woodpeckers, a natural part of their ecosystem. When living near busy roads, the trees essentially become numbed to a crucial warning signal. Finally, the rise of artificial light pollution is creating another significant challenge. The night sky, once a constant, reassuring presence, is now fragmented by the glow of streetlights, billboards, and buildings. This constant illumination disrupts the trees' natural circadian rhythms, their internal biological clocks that regulate a vast array of physiological processes, from growth and reproduction to defense responses. Trees rely on the darkness of night to produce melatonin, a hormone that plays a crucial role in their health and resilience. Artificial light suppresses melatonin production, weakening their defenses and making them less able to cope with stress. It also disrupts the synchronization of their growth patterns with the seasons, leading to abnormal growth rates and reduced reproductive success. Many tree species, particularly those reliant on moonlight for pollination, are exhibiting reduced flowering rates and decreased seed production under conditions of intense light pollution. Recent research indicates that some trees may even be confused by the light, attempting to photosynthesize even when it's not optimal, diverting energy away from vital repair processes. Scientists are now exploring ways to mitigate these anthropogenic stresses. Urban forestry initiatives are focusing on planting trees in strategic locations to act as noise buffers, using dense foliage to absorb and deflect sound waves. Efforts are underway to reduce light pollution through the use of shielded streetlights and the implementation of dark sky policies. Furthermore, research continues to investigate the potential of bioremediation, harnessing the natural ability of trees to absorb and detoxify pollutants. The forest continues to communicate, its message now laced with a subtle urgency. It's a reminder that the health of our planet and the resilience of its most ancient inhabitants depends on our ability to understand and respect the complex, interconnected world of the trees. Deep within the heartwood of an ancient oak or the slender stem of a young birch exists a secret timekeeper, far more intricate than any human clock. It's a biological rhythm, a fundamental pulse that governs nearly every aspect of a tree's life, a constant awareness of the shifting light, the warming and cooling of the seasons, and the subtle ebb and flow of energy. This isn't a conscious ticking. It's a sophisticated cascade of biochemical processes orchestrated by specialized cells and proteins that drive the tree's remarkable adaptability. At the core of this system lies a core circadian clock, similar in principle to the one found in our own bodies, but tuned to the dramatically different timescale of a tree's existence. The most obvious manifestation of this internal rhythm is the daily cycle of leaf expansion and retraction. As sunlight grows stronger in the morning, a plant hormone called auxin, produced in the leaves, increases, stimulating cell growth and causing the leaf to unfold, maximizing its potential to capture solar energy. This process is directly influenced by the light, but the clock ensures that the leaf opens at the precise moment when light intensity is optimal, creating a seamless integration between external signals and internal regulation. Conversely, as darkness approaches, auxin production decreases, signaling the leaf to gradually fold inward, conserving resources and reducing water loss. This daily movement isn't just a response to light. It's a carefully choreographed dance, dictated by the circadian clock's timing. But the tree's rhythm extends far beyond the daily cycle. Seasonal changes, particularly the shift from summer to autumn, trigger profound alterations in the tree's physiology, again driven by this internal clock. The approach of shorter days causes a decrease in the production of chlorophyll, the pigment responsible for photosynthesis. Simultaneously, the tree begins to synthesize abscisic acid, another hormone which promotes the breakdown of chlorophyll and initiates the preparation for winter. This isn't simply a passive response. The clock plays a critical role in regulating the timing of this transformation, ensuring that the tree sheds its leaves precisely when it's most vulnerable and when the energy reserves are adequately replenished. Furthermore, the internal clock influences root growth and activity. During the growing season, roots expand aggressively, seeking out water and nutrients. However, as winter approaches, root growth slows dramatically, and the root system enters a state of dormancy. This transition is also tightly controlled by the circadian clock, which regulates the expression of genes involved in root development and metabolism. Scientists are increasingly recognizing that different parts of the tree, roots, stems, and leaves, possess their own subtly distinct circadian clocks, communicating with each other to maintain overall physiological harmony. The mechanism behind these clocks is fascinating. At the heart of each clock is a molecular oscillator, a set of genes that repeatedly turn on and off in a cyclical pattern. One of the most well-studied oscillators involves a protein called FRB, FT3 in Arabidopsis, a common model plant. FRB accumulates in the cell during the night phase, triggering a cascade of events that ultimately affect the expression of other genes. As light stimulates the breakdown of FRB, the cycle begins anew. This process generates a rhythmic pattern of gene expression, creating a timekeeping system. Interestingly, the tree's circadian clock isn't solely reliant on light. While light serves as a primary Zeitgeber, or time cue, the clock can also be influenced by temperature fluctuations and even the lunar cycle. These external factors can subtly alter the timing of the molecular oscillations, allowing the tree to fine-tune its responses to seasonal changes. Research suggests that the tree's ability to anticipate and adapt to these varied cues is a crucial element of its long-term survival strategy. The precision of the tree's circadian clock is remarkable. Studies have shown that the timing of physiological processes, such as leaf expansion and flowering, can be maintained with astonishing accuracy, even under conditions of constant darkness or artificial light. This robustness suggests that the tree's internal clock is deeply embedded in its physiology, representing a fundamental adaptation to the predictable rhythms of the natural world. The interconnectedness of these rhythmic processes underscores the sophistication of the tree's ability to orchestrate its growth and development over the course of a year, and indeed, across the centuries. As the seasons turn, so too does the ancient, unwavering rhythm within the heart of the tree. The forest floor, dappled with the shifting sunlight, isn't a silent space. It's a vibrant hub of communication, a constant exchange occurring between the towering trees and the creatures that share their world. For a long time, scientists viewed trees primarily as solitary organisms, focused solely on their own growth and survival. But increasingly, we're realizing that trees exist within a complex network of interactions, actively shaping their environment and, remarkably, receiving significant benefits in return. These relationships aren't just accidental occurrences. They are the product of millions of years of coevolution, a beautiful dance of adaptation and reciprocal advantage. Consider the humble ant. Many tree species, particularly within the legume family like black locust and honey locust, harbor colonies of ants within specialized structures called Beltian glands. These glands, located at the base of the young twigs, produce a sticky, nutrient-rich substance, a Beltian gubbin, as some researchers affectionately call it. This isn't merely a byproduct of the tree's growth, it's a carefully crafted offering. The ants, in turn, meticulously clean the tree branches of herbivores, like caterpillars and sawflies, and actively defend the tree against attack from larger insects, such as wood-boring beetles. The effectiveness of this partnership is astounding. Trees with established ant colonies often demonstrate significantly reduced damage from herbivorous insects. It's a sophisticated system of pest control, entirely driven by the tree's contribution. Beyond ants, the relationship between trees and birds is equally intricate. The woodpecker, a seemingly destructive force, plays a crucial role in many forest ecosystems. But many tree species, notably oaks, maples, and beeches, have evolved to tolerate and even encourage woodpecker activity. The woodpeckers create cavities in the trees, which aren't just homes for the birds themselves. They are often adopted by other animals, including bats, owls, and squirrels. The trees, in return for these valuable nesting sites and opportunities for seed dispersal, provide the wood for building the cavities. Recent research has even discovered evidence of trees actively promoting woodpecker nesting by modifying the shape and size of their cavities, a process directly linked to the woodpecker's precise drilling behavior. This isn't simple tolerance. It's a targeted adjustment of the tree's architecture in response to animal needs. The relationship between trees and bats is another fascinating area of study. Several bat species, particularly fruit bats, rely on trees for food, particularly during the autumn and winter months. Trees like hawthorns, figs, and certain maple species produce abundant fruit, offering a vital food source when other options are scarce. The bats, in turn, play a crucial role in pollination. Many tree species rely on bats to transfer pollen between flowers, ensuring the continuation of their kind. This mutualism is particularly pronounced in tropical forests, where bat-pollinated trees can make up a significant proportion of the plant community. Furthermore, bat guano, the droppings of the bats, is a rich source of nutrients that can benefit the surrounding soil, promoting the growth of other plants. The interactions aren't limited to large animals. Smaller creatures, such as insects and mites, also play vital roles. Some trees, like willows, provide shelter and breeding grounds for aquatic insects, which in turn help to maintain the health of the tree's roots. Certain tree species attract specific types of mites that feed on parasitic insects, offering an additional layer of defense. Even the mycorrhizal fungi, the microscopic partners that live in symbiosis with tree roots, facilitate exchanges between trees and animals. These fungi extend the tree's root system, accessing nutrients and water more efficiently, while also connecting trees to a vast underground network, allowing them to communicate with each other, sharing resources, and even warning signals about potential threats. It's important to understand that these interactions aren't static. They evolve over time, shaped by natural selection. A tree species that is particularly adept at attracting a specific animal, say, a bat that consistently pollinates its flowers, will likely thrive, passing on its advantageous traits to its offspring. Conversely, a tree species that fails to provide a valuable service to an animal will gradually decline. This ongoing coevolutionary process creates a dynamic and incredibly resilient ecosystem, where the fates of trees and animals are inextricably linked. Research is now beginning to uncover evidence that trees can even learn and adapt their behavior based on past experiences. Studies involving Douglas fir seedlings have shown that they can modify their growth patterns in response to the presence of specific animals, indicating a level of cognitive processing previously thought to be exclusive to animals. The forest floor, therefore, isn't just a stage for simple interactions. It's a laboratory of coevolution, a place where the smallest and largest creatures are constantly shaping each other's destinies, creating a truly remarkable and interconnected world. The ancient trees, silent witnesses to millennia of this dance, offer a profound lesson. Life, in its most complex and beautiful forms, thrives on reciprocity and mutual benefit. The wind, often perceived simply as a force of disruption, is in reality a remarkably complex and crucial influence shaping the very architecture of trees. It's a force that has driven evolution for billions of years, and trees have developed astonishing strategies to not only withstand it, but to actually incorporate its energy into their growth. Let's delve into the physics of this interaction, exploring how trees manipulate their shape and strength against the relentless push and pull of the air. Trees aren't static structures. They're constantly in motion, responding to even the slightest breeze. This isn't a conscious decision, of course. It's a result of intricate physical principles at play. The primary way trees combat wind resistance is through a process called aerodynamic shaping. Their branches, trunks, and even individual leaves are not randomly distributed. Instead, they are arranged in ways that minimize drag, the force that opposes movement through a fluid like air. Think of a streamlined car. Its shape reduces the resistance it feels as it moves through the air. Trees mimic this principle, developing conical or pyramidal shapes. These forms naturally reduce the surface area exposed to the wind, lessening the overall force acting upon the tree. The base of the tree is particularly important. A wide, sturdy base provides a foundation of stability, acting like an anchor against the wind's attempts to uproot it. This isn't just about brute strength. It's about distributing the force across a larger area. Consider a narrow, tall building versus a broad, low one. The low building is far more resilient to strong winds. Trees achieve a similar effect through their root systems, which spread extensively beneath the soil, providing a robust connection to the ground. The intertwining of roots further enhances this stability, creating a network that resists overturning. But it's not just about overall shape. The precise angle and curvature of branches is critically important. Branches don't grow straight upwards. Instead, they often curve gently outwards, creating a sort of shoulder that deflects the wind. This is particularly evident in trees growing in exposed, windy locations. The degree of this curvature is directly related to the prevailing wind conditions. In areas with consistent winds, branches will typically curve in the direction of the wind, maximizing their ability to resist being blown over. The trunk itself plays a vital role. Its diameter and density are key to its structural integrity. Trees with thicker trunks are naturally stronger and better able to withstand the forces exerted by the wind. This is due to the arrangement of wood fibers within the trunk. Wood isn't just one uniform material, it's composed of cells, and the way these cells are aligned contributes significantly to its strength. Primarily, the wood is composed of cellulose and lignin, both complex polymers. Lignin, in particular, provides rigidity and resistance to compression, strengthening the trunk against bending and buckling. Furthermore, the process of wood formation itself contributes to wind resistance. As a tree grows, it produces new wood, and this new wood is often less dense and more pliable than older wood. This creates a layered structure, with older, denser wood providing strength and stability, while newer, more flexible wood allows the tree to bend slightly in response to wind, reducing the likelihood of fracturing. This is like a flexible metal rod. It can bend without breaking under pressure. Beyond the individual components, the interconnectedness of the tree's vascular system also plays a subtle yet significant role. The xylem, responsible for transporting water and nutrients, and the phloem, involved in sugar transport, create internal pathways that contribute to the overall structural stability. The flow of sap under pressure can actually reinforce the cell walls, further increasing the tree's resistance to wind-induced stresses. The study of tree movement, known as dendrometry, is revealing fascinating insights into how trees perceive and respond to their environment. Instruments called dendrometers can measure the tiny movements of branches and trunks, providing detailed data on wind patterns and tree responses. These measurements demonstrate that trees don't just passively withstand the wind, they actively adjust their posture, subtly altering their angles to minimize the forces acting upon them. Consider the example of a pine tree. Its needles, closely packed together, create a dense surface that disrupts the airflow, reducing turbulence and therefore wind resistance. The specific shape of the needles themselves, often slightly curved, further contributes to this effect. Conversely, a tree with widely spaced, flat leaves would be much more vulnerable to wind damage. The research in this area is continually evolving, with scientists now exploring the role of epigenetic modifications, changes in gene expression that don't involve alterations to the DNA sequence itself, in mediating tree responses to wind. These changes, triggered by environmental stresses, can remember past wind events and influence the tree's future behavior. Ultimately, the relationship between trees and the wind is a remarkable example of coevolution. The wind has shaped the form of trees for millions of years, and in turn, trees have developed ingenious strategies to harness the energy of the wind for growth and survival. It's a testament to the power and adaptability of life, and a reminder of the intricate connections that exist within the natural world. The ongoing study of this dynamic interaction continues to reveal profound lessons about resilience, adaptation, and the beauty of the natural world. The rustle of leaves, a constant whisper carried on the wind, isn't just the sound of trees. It's also a signal, a vital piece of information about the world's forests and how we're trying to understand them. For centuries, people relied on simple measurements: the number of trees in a forest, their average height, and their estimated diameter. But the sheer scale of forests and the incredible diversity within them demanded more sophisticated methods. Today, scientists employ a range of techniques to quantify forest biomass. That is, the total amount of living matter in a forest, primarily the wood, but also including roots, branches, and leaves. This isn't about simply counting trees. It's about estimating the enormous store of energy locked within these living ecosystems. One of the earliest and still widely used methods involves allometric equations. These equations are mathematical relationships that link easily measurable variables, like a tree's diameter at breast height, dBH, or the length of its stem, to a more difficult-to-measure quantity, its volume. It's based on the principle that larger trees predictably contain more wood. Scientists collect data from numerous trees within a forest, measuring their dimensions, and then correlating those measurements with the volume of wood they contain. These equations are then applied to the entire forest, allowing researchers to estimate the total biomass. The accuracy of allometric models depends heavily on the specific tree species and the regional conditions. Soil type, climate, and competition all play a role in a tree's growth. Different equations are developed for different tree types, such as pine, oak, or beech, because their growth patterns and wood densities vary considerably. Beyond individual trees, researchers increasingly use remote sensing techniques. Satellites and airplanes are equipped with sensors that can see through the forest canopy, measuring the amount of reflected light. This isn't a direct measurement of biomass, but it's a proxy. Different wavelengths of light are absorbed differently by vegetation. Near-infrared light, for example, is strongly absorbed by healthy plant tissues, while visible light passes through more easily. By analyzing the patterns of reflected light, scientists can create vegetation indices, like the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, NDVI. Higher NDVI values generally indicate greater biomass and photosynthetic activity. LiDAR, light detection and ranging, is another powerful tool. LiDAR systems use laser pulses to create a highly detailed 3D map of the forest. These laser scans can precisely measure the height, canopy density, and even the structure of individual trees. The data collected from LiDAR is then processed to estimate biomass. LiDAR's advantage is its ability to penetrate the canopy, providing information about the vertical structure of the forest, something that ground-based measurements struggle to capture effectively. Furthermore, drones equipped with various sensors, including multispectral cameras and thermal sensors, are becoming increasingly common. These drones can rapidly collect data over large areas, offering a cost-effective and efficient way to monitor forest biomass and health. Another, more specialized technique involves destructive sampling. This is rarely used for large-scale assessments, but can provide extremely accurate data for specific studies. Researchers select a representative number of trees and carefully measure their diameter, height, and wood density. They then cut down the trees, weigh the different parts, a trunk, branches, roots, and calculate the total biomass. This data is then used to refine allometric equations or to develop more precise biomass models. Estimating forest biomass isn't just an academic exercise. The results are crucial for understanding carbon cycling, how forests absorb and store carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Forests are a vital carbon sink, helping to mitigate the effects of climate change. Accurate biomass estimates are essential for tracking these changes and for informing forestry management practices. Knowing the amount of carbon stored in a forest allows us to assess its potential for carbon sequestration and to design strategies for sustainably managing forests while maximizing their carbon storage capacity. Sophisticated modeling techniques are now combining data from all these sources. Integrating allometric equations with remote sensing data and LiDAR measurements creates incredibly detailed biomass maps. These maps can be used to monitor changes in forest biomass over time, allowing scientists to track the impacts of deforestation, wildfires, or climate change. Furthermore, incorporating data on tree age and species composition leads to even more refined estimates. The future of forest biomass estimation lies in the continued development of these integrated approaches, leveraging the power of technology to provide a more complete and nuanced understanding of these vital ecosystems. It's a continuous process of measurement, analysis, and refinement, a silent, intricate dance of data gathering carried out by researchers, satellites, and increasingly by the very trees themselves. The rustling of leaves isn't just the sound of wind. It's a whisper of incredible design, a blueprint silently offering itself to the world of engineering. For centuries, humans have looked to nature for inspiration, but the complexity and elegance of trees has remained largely untapped until now. Scientists are beginning to realize that the very structures and processes within a tree hold the potential to revolutionize how we build, transport, and even understand material strength. The secret lies in how trees manage immense forces, adapt to shifting conditions, and sustain themselves with minimal energy expenditure. Take, for instance, the branching patterns of a tree. These aren't random growths. They're meticulously crafted to distribute weight efficiently, reducing stress on individual branches and maximizing the tree's ability to withstand gale-force winds. This fractal geometry, repeating patterns at different scales, is being studied intensely. Researchers are creating computer models that mimic these branching systems, exploring how they could be used to design lighter, stronger, and more resilient structures. A bridge constructed with a branching network, replicating the principles of a tree's canopy, could adapt to varying loads and reduce the risk of catastrophic failure. It's about designing for flexibility, not rigidity. The material science aspects of tree construction are equally fascinating. Wood, primarily composed of cellulose, lignin, and hemicellulose, isn't just a passive building material, it's a living composite. The way these components are arranged, often with gaps and imperfections, isn't a flaw. It's a strategically engineered weakness that acts as a built-in damping system. When a tree is subjected to stress, these imperfections absorb energy, preventing the rapid transmission of damage. This principle is informing the development of biocomposite materials. Scientists are experimenting with creating materials that incorporate similar patterns of voids and fiber orientations to achieve exceptional strength-to-weight ratios. Imagine building a skyscraper panel incorporating this understanding. capable of absorbing energy from an earthquake instead of shattering under pressure. Furthermore, the vascular system of a tree, the xylem and phloem, presents a remarkably efficient transport network. The xylem, with its hollow, interconnected tubes, moves water and minerals from the roots to the leaves with minimal energy loss. The phloem carries sugars produced during photosynthesis throughout the tree. This closed-loop system, operating with remarkable stability over decades, is inspiring new approaches to fluid transport. Researchers are developing microfluidic devices modeled after the vascular system, using capillary action and minimal energy input to move fluids in applications ranging from drug delivery to industrial processes. These systems, dubbed biocircuits, are dramatically more efficient than conventional pumps and pipes. The self-healing capabilities of trees also hold tremendous promise. When a tree is damaged, perhaps by a falling branch or insect infestation, it doesn't simply respond with a defensive reaction. It initiates a complex process of compartmentalization. The damaged area is effectively sealed off, preventing the spread of decay and allowing the tree to regenerate. Scientists are investigating how this process works at a molecular level, studying the chemicals and cellular mechanisms involved. This research is leading to the creation of smart materials that can automatically repair themselves after experiencing damage, a concept with profound implications for infrastructure, aerospace, and even medicine. Beyond individual components, the overall architecture of a forest, or forest engineering, is a completely new field. Dense forests, with their interwoven branches and roots, create a complex three-dimensional network that distributes stress, regulates temperature, and even influences rainfall patterns. Researchers are beginning to understand how to mimic this system to create more resilient and sustainable urban environments. Concepts like vertical forests, buildings covered in vegetation, are being explored to reduce the urban heat island effect, improve air quality, and create habitats for wildlife. The study of tree root systems is particularly noteworthy. These subterranean networks aren't just anchors. They're sophisticated communication systems, exchanging signals and nutrients between trees within a forest. Scientists are discovering that trees can warn each other about impending threats, such as insect attacks, through these underground networks, a phenomenon known as Wood Wide Web. This interconnectedness is pushing the boundaries of our understanding of ecosystems and raising questions about how we can harness these natural communication pathways for our own benefit, perhaps even in the development of intelligent sensor networks. It's important to remember that bio-inspired engineering isn't about simply copying tree shapes. It's about understanding the underlying principles that allow trees to thrive in challenging environments. It's about learning from a system that has evolved over millions of years to achieve remarkable efficiency, resilience, and sustainability. The future of materials science, structural engineering, and even urban planning may well be rooted in the quiet wisdom of the trees. The next generation of innovation will undoubtedly draw inspiration from the forest, a living testament to the power of nature's ingenious design. If you're still awake and enjoyed this exploration, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Ultimate Sleep Doctor. Together, we can soothe more wandering minds, one peaceful night at a time. The ancient wisdom of the trees lingers, a silent current beneath our feet. Let your thoughts now drift, calm and unhurried as the forest settles around you. Good